The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. Listener discretion advised, mostly because of him.
Before the contradictions, before the missing names, before the reports that don't line up, there was Joe Powell. He was a son, he was a soldier, and he was an athlete. And on a cold March morning in Norman, Oklahoma, his life was cut short. Welcome back to The Last Clue. Before we get started, we want to give a special shout out to our new listeners tuning in from Corpus Christi, Texas, Chicago, Illinois,
Second City.
Trois-Rivières, Quebec,
Oh,
Buffalo, New York.
Go Bills.
Go Josh Allen. And Maricopa, Arizona.
Not to be confused with Maricopa County. Maricopa is actually a little town too, south of Phoenix.
Do you know how big? Just roughly?
It's not very big at all.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's actually just outside of Maricopa County. But anyway.
Could we say a fourth of the population of Maricopa might be listening to our podcast?
Sure.
Okay, I like it. And wherever you're listening right now, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start with the reports on Joe Powell. And here's where things already start to go sideways. Now, before we get started, I want to fully recognize that we reached out to the public information officer for the Norman, Oklahoma Police Department with some very direct questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we also asked for copies of the police reports because there had been a little bit of confusion about two reports that we will get into, but the public information officer for Norman PD did provide the case report and also the incident report and did answer some questions. So full transparency, we have been in contact with the local police department in Norman, and they have responded.
Yes, so regarding this case, Joe Powell.
Yeah, just want
We're
that.
Sticking with it.
Yep, want that out there. So the first report we received was the case report, and this was filed on March 10th. Now, just a reminder, when was the incident?
March 7th.
March 7th. So in the original case report, this incident was filed as an assault at 305 East Boyd Street in Norman. It happened just after 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And officers were not dispatched until 3:47 a.m. Now, if you've listened to the last couple of podcasts, and especially our premium content, you know exactly where this timeline is at this point.
Yes.
If you haven't, I encourage you to go back and listen to those because we laid out the entire story in two parts, and now here we are on part 3, and most likely going forward with this, but we'll get into that.
A continued series, so please stay with us, please follow it, and please interact with us.
We will definitely get into that because we have been contacted by a few different entities, and the interest is definitely here in this case.
Yes.
So the narrative, back to the case report, the narrative was that there was an altercation and that one individual was transported to the hospital in critical condition that turned out to be the victim, Joe Powell. All parties were identified in this case report that was filed on March 10th of this year. There were no arrests made.
No.
And to this date, there have been no arrests made. We'll get to that as we go through. There was a reference to RP, who we have found out is the reporting person. No name given. Get into that too. RP was 59 years old, and the 3 witnesses were all 21 years old, and one of them is the person that struck Joe Powell that ultimately ended his life.
Right.
This report, not uncommon. This report was filed 8 days after the incident. From what we've seen, the timeline shows 8 days. Now, Norman PD may have different records. We may have a correction on our hands. But right now, from the information that we've been given, it was filed 8 days after the incident. So, that brings me to my first question. Why was there a delay of 8 days to file the case report? I think that's fairly common with an incident like this. You have multiple parties, multiple people that have been drinking.
Yeah. Hello, college town. There's no dispute in that fact.
No,
Zero.
Absolutely. That is 100% accurate that there was alcohol involved in this incident from both sides.
Correct.
Now, 8 days again in a college town. This is March. Classes are still in session. 8 days doesn't seem terribly unreasonable to me to file a report, because you have to get all of your facts in order to be able to file an accurate report.
I'll take 8 days at this point.
So, as we get into this, again, we mentioned that there were 2 reports, and we are going to talk about how the case report timeline compares to the incident report timeline. There's very little information in the case report timeline. So bear with us, because most likely that information is going to come out in our next episode. I want to be at the forefront of that, because we have some additional information that we've received that we wanted to make sure that we can process and tell our listeners accurately what we've seen that was outside of the police report. Now, Norman PD may know this. We haven't seen it anywhere officially from Norman PD, and that's why we want to make sure that we process it correctly.
Fully understand. We like transparency with our listeners. So that's where we're at, and that's why we're trying to be as detailed as possible.
The other thing that we've struggled with in this case is, and again, referenced in our previous podcasts, the reporting person perspective of this whole thing doesn't sit quite right with me, because the reporting person is mentioned in the case report, but when the incident report comes around, it's a little bit different.
Right.
And again, we're going to cover that as we truly dive into this, because there's a lot of information. There's a lot of layers. This is
a big old onion.
Definitely an onion. So let's go to the incident report.
Okay.
From what we've been able to have determined, this was filed on August 19th. Now, that may have been the pull date that the public information officer gave us. We can only go by the information that we received from Norman PD. So the incident report filed August 19th changed
Oh,
from the case report that was an assault to now we have the incident report and it is being reported as a carjacking.
right. I think we covered this a little bit in our previous podcast, but again, we're trying to peel back some layers of the onion here.
So the location and date and time don't change. Everything from the case report to the incident report officially from Norman PD stays the same.
At this point, yes.
At this point, yes. The vehicle involved was a 2024 Ford F-250 Super Cab, which was white. And from the police body cam footage, you can see that it was also pulling a small trailer that to us looked like a tool trailer, but that is something else that we are digging in and we'll have more information on in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, uh, still in the research phase for me because you know how I am. I'm a woman. As I'm digging, I've got lots of questions, and
She is a Facebook comment digger. If if I see something
if
on
you think it's just Facebook, you're cute.
yeah, so if I see something on Facebook that just like even a little bit more than mildly interests me or makes me laugh or whatever, I will actually send it to her and she will go comment diving, which is fantastic for me because she's a excellent researcher. I feel like I can hold my own, but that's not my strong suit. She is a comment diver on Facebook. So,
I'm not afraid of a rabbit hole or two.
and speaking of that, just as a side note, um, at the request of our listeners and subscribers to our premium content,
Thank you.
we are actually working on a specific Facebook page for The Last Clue that will be separate from Smith Media LLC, still under the umbrella.
Of course.
And we are also working on a Facebook group where we can have some open discussions about this case and also cases that we have on our list to cover. And trust me, we have a few dozen cases that we are also digging into. But right now, this case is going to be our focus. But trust me, the people that have reached out to us, I want to assure you, if you have reached out to us at info@smithmediateamllc.com, if you get a short response that says we're looking into it or thank you for your email, we will get back to you, I can assure you we are getting back to you.
Yes.
We are researching behind the scenes.
Yeah, we don't just say, "Oh, there's a great case, let's read a story on it and then do a podcast."
No. We grab shovels and our lunch pail and
It's probably not a great thing to say we grab shovels when you're talking about a true crime podcast.
we dig.
Oh, okay.
We dig. So here we are, back to the incident report that was filed August 19th. And one key component was missing.
Do tell.
As we referenced earlier, there is no mention of the 59-year-old reporting person. He is not in the incident report at all.
Where'd he go?
We're digging into that.
Oh, bet your bippity boppity boo we are.
Don't think for a second that we've let that go.
Not at all.
So the narratives for the incident report are this. And I want to remind our listeners, again, if you've listened to the previous podcast, you know this already, especially our subscribers. They know this. But for our new listeners, thank you. The narrative is this. This incident happened just after 3 a.m.
Yep.
On March 7th.
Right.
Officers were dispatched at 3:47 in the morning.
Now, I'm gonna break it down, and I'm probably gonna get some hate comments for this. I know Oklahoma is 50th in the nation in education.
With a bullet, because we have Ryan Walters.
Even in any type of newfangled math that you can do, even being 50th in the nation in education, you can see the flaw here in a more than 40-minute gap.
And we clearly stated the case for that in
Yes.
our premium content.
Sure did.
Right after episode 2 of the Joe Powell case. There were absolutely no punches held.
Nope.
On that. So at 3:48, the reporting party reports that the suspect is now unconscious but breathing. Now again, Joe Powell has moved from victim to suspect because they have changed this report from assault to carjacking. So unfortunately, from this report, we have to refer to Joe as the suspect. At 3:50 a.m., there was a 21-year-old that said they were involved in the altercation, that he struck Joe, and Joe fell.
And these times are very specific.
These times are from the report. So this is at 3:50. That's when one of the 21-year-olds is saying to the officer or officers, because we saw multiple officers on the scene, that they are reporting what happened from earlier in the night, from 45 minutes ago, after drinking.
Okay.
So at 3:53, approximately, EMS documented a head laceration. At 4:03, Joe Powell was transported, code 3, to the hospital. Around 4:30, they say 4:29, Joe was in the trauma room, and then there were some crime scene photos taken at approximately 4:37. This is all from the report that's provided from Norman PD. So the obvious talking point is this, and we probably won't spend a whole lot of time on this because this is well documented how we feel about this in our subscriber only content and our premium content.
Correct.
There's a huge difference in the reports classifying this as an assault and then changing it to a carjacking.
Those that are supposed to protect and serve. Just going to shut up right now.
And that what you were about to say goes exactly to the accuracy and the reliability of the police documentation. You are getting two very different stories. This went from an assault that involved 4 people, the reporting person, yes, and 3 21-year-olds, to now you get to this incident report. The reporting person has become David Copperfield and just disappeared with a poof of smoke.
DB Cooper, I mean,
59 years old.
He's very swift.
It sounds to me like he might have walked with a limp, potentially, because he might have had a fat wallet on one side of his jeans. How? Just explain to me. In my mind, it's simple. Either the reporting person is carrying around fat sacks of cash at 3:45 in the morning, or potentially he could be a homeless person because
Okay.
college town,
Yeah.
and in Norman there are areas that have some homeless people. I won't say it's a great deal. I don't think that the homeless people that are in Norman, the transients don't typically hang out on campus. I think the
No.
campus police is pretty good about keeping them away from campus. But it's got to be an option, because how does the reporting person just disappear? That
I'd love to jump in here and say something intelligent, but I got nothing right now.
and there's a there's a huge difference here between the public perception, because the public, and definitely our listeners, are seeing right through this alleged transparency from the Norman Police Department.
Oh yeah, they're clear as mud.
Our listeners are very clear, because they've told us how they see what is happening. But Norman PD, their official response has been nothing short of lackluster. They're not answering anything. And
So the public information officer response that has been begotten is begotten.
so we've got two reports, one calling it an assault, one calling it a carjacking. A 59-year-old reporting person that isn't listed in the incident report. One of the 21-year-olds admittedly hit Joe on camera.
Yes.
And the question remains, why are the two different official versions so different?
Well, and there's another difference, and we'll probably get into it either in our next episode or in premium content. But I recall another report stating that the reporting person, the 59-year-old, stated he struck Joe. So,
That's coming down the pike.
yeah, come down. Lots on the table. There's a lot going on with this onion.
So next up, the missing names in the report.
Okay.
And we're going to be careful here, because as a couple of days ago, our investigator got back to us, and we're going to have more on this in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Onion, guys. Onion.
let's just that's where we have to that's where we got to stop right there, because our
Yes.
investigator said, "Hey, zip it," like we were in first grade when your teacher said, "Hey, shh, 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 shh." So the Public Information Office statement from Norman says that the policy is for only people arrested or charged are listed in case reports. Understood.
Okay.
I get that.
Sure.
Probably standard police policy across the country. Also, in the email, we got a lot of answers that said "see above," and that was when we referenced
It's all right.
the Oklahoma Open Records Act, or the ORRA. And I referenced that to be completely transparent in the email. Wanted to make sure that she knew that we knew about the ORRA, and we do. So, the Oklahoma Open Records Act is a state law granting public access to government records unless exempted. How do you think this one's going to go?
There goes my Scooby again.
Police can withhold names if releasing them interferes with an investigation. Hold on to that one, listeners. Compromises privacy or involves people not arrested or charged, which there have been no arrests and no charges in the Joe Powell homicide case.
Right. And I think we covered that a little bit in our previous episode,
Oh,
the
absolutely. We
Oklahoma Open Records Act.
Absolutely, we did. So, obviously, the reporting person who went away
Poof.
is not named. None of the three 21-year-olds. Now, let me remind you, and I said this, and you reiterated this in our podcast prior to this. I understand that a lot of people want to say 21-year-old kid.
Yeah. As a mom, I get it. I get it. I do it with my own children.
When you turn 18, you become an adult. So this 21-year-old kid narrative, especially involving this story, is out the window. These are 21-year-old men, and there's 3 of them.
Correct.
So obviously, the public has not been happy about the lack of transparency. However, the Oklahoma Open Records Act protects the Norman Police Department in releasing those names because there's been no charges and there's been accusations, but there's been no charges, there's been no arrests.
Right. Following.
And this is why one of the 21-year-old that admittedly struck Joe, again, admitted on camera, and we'll cover that in the future.
Yes.
Admitted on camera that
body
he struck
cam.
Joe.
Body cam, police body cam footage, guys. That is coming.
Isn't listed. The law isn't protecting privacy. It's keeping key details of this case under wraps. That is a big deal for Joe's family. If you have listened to the reports where Joe's mother, Amanda, has gone to the news stations and pleaded, which we've covered in our prior podcast, you will know that she is asking for transparency.
As well she should. And she deserves that. That family deserves it.
The family wants someone to be held accountable.
I don't blame them.
I don't disagree with them one bit.
Not an iota.
And now, the word that changes everything that I did mention earlier, that word is homicide.
That's a big word.
The Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office released their report,
mm-hmm.
and they have officially ruled Joe's death as a homicide due to blunt force trauma.
Right. And we did discuss that a little bit in our previous episode. But this is a big deal, guys, and this is what we need you to understand with 2 varying reports and a medical examiner report saying homicide. That's not something that's taken lightly, you would think.
From the email from Norman Police Department, it states, "We have no reasonable suspicion or probable cause that a criminal homicide took place." Now, let's jump into probable cause for a second. The legal standard requiring reasonable grounds to believe a crime occurred based on facts and evidence. The lower threshold, beyond a reasonable doubt, but higher than a guess. So, with the number of officers that you saw on body cam the night that this incident occurred, and none of them had any reason to believe that anything other than a carjacking happened.
These officers, at minimum, I'll even go at minimum, an officer, one of them had to be thinking there's something's wrong here. Something's wrong here.
Wait until we tell you in a future episode how that body cam footage wrapped up.
Mm.
There was something very peculiar at the start that we have zoomed in on, and there was something very peculiar at the end that we focused on, and that is coming in a future podcast. So
I can't believe there is zero, none, nil, nada probable cause.
So now we've got the Norman PD versus the state of Oklahoma. The ME says homicide.
Mm-hmm. Big
Norman
deal.
PD says no probable cause. But probable cause does not require proof beyond a doubt. Only reasonable belief. Joe was struck, knocked unconscious, and later died. To me, that's enough to meet probable cause in almost any case.
When you have someone that is assaulted and dies, you can't tell me that there's not a shred of decency within your body that says this needs to be looked at further.
Well, here's the next twist. The person that struck Joe has never been listed officially as a suspect, even though the state of Oklahoma has clearly stated. Now, they may pull back on this, but right now, the document that we have, the state of Oklahoma has clearly stated that Joe Powell's death was a homicide, and the person that admittedly hit him has never officially been named a suspect.
Oh, which person that hit him? The 21-year-old or the 59-year-old?
That another day.
Food for thought there, guys.
Despite the homicide ruling, Norman PD doesn't consider anyone a suspect. Now, this is going to go into a little bit more legalese, but I promise you, it's coming up in a future podcast.
I'm going to have to put my thinking cap on.
Let's go to the Castle Doctrine.
Oh.
Oklahoma law allowing use of reasonable force to defend one's home, vehicle, or property.
Okay.
This only applies if a person reasonably believes they are stopping a felony or imminent harm.
Okay.
Now, we have actually been to the site where Joe was transported from this incident to the hospital. We've physically been to the site. The parking lot is the parking lot to a set of apartments really close to campus, really close.
Yes.
So, in talking about the Castle Doctrine, you can't own an apartment because there are signs saying for lease, for lease, for lease everywhere around that apartment complex. And we're
Okay.
not naming the apartment complex right now because we've got some further questions.
Right.
But you can't own an apartment that's for lease. You can be under lease, but that you don't own that.
You can
So,
sublet, you can rent, you can cohabitate.
so the 21-year-old that struck Joe was not an owner of a home,
No.
which means that he was the owner of the vehicle.
Okay.
We have some information that our investigator is working on from the police body cam that may surprise you regarding the vehicle that we mentioned earlier and some additional information that's coming up in a future podcast. Now, I'm going to say that the person that hit Joe most likely has retained an attorney. To me it makes
It makes
sense.
sense. It would make sense.
And they are probably going to lean on the castle doctrine, which means if they retained an attorney and if they are leaning on the castle doctrine, then that means that they owned the vehicle that was shown in the police body cam. Would that make sense? I feel like that's fair.
Based on what you're telling me, if I know nothing about any of this, yes, that makes sense.
So the person is claiming that Joe tried to steal the truck
Okay, the carjacking thing, carjacking, castle law,
and
castle
was
doctrine.
and he
Yeah,
was defending
sure.
himself.
Okay, I'm there.
So let's call it what it is, 3-on-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went into that too.
Sure. 3-on-1 and a 40 plus minute delay in calling 911 for Joe, who clearly hit his head and was visibly bleeding and struggling to breathe.
Right. Oh God. You know what? If Can I throw something out there that this reminds me of if we're going to talk about this castle doctrine thing?
Sure.
There was recently an arrest, a whole thing where this 11 or 12-year-old kid, I believe in Texas, Florida, something, Houston, was ding dong ditching and went to a gentleman's house, ding dong ditch, ran away. Gentleman went outside and shot and killed the kid.
Correct.
That man was charged with murder and is in prison, even though he was protecting his home.
Mm-hmm.
So if we've got this man that was protecting his home and used the lethal force per the castle doctrine,
And has charges brought against him.
yeah, well, so does the castle doctrine only protect those it wants to protect? Because this man was protecting his home and did just that with the lethal force that he was allowed to do, but he's got charges of murder against him.
It seems to me, and I think you would agree with this, it seems to me from the body cam footage that the Norman PD was pretty friendly with the three people mentioned in the report while Joe Powell lay dying on the concrete. And again, we're heading that way in a future podcast, but would you agree that it seemed to be friendly?
It didn't seem official.
It did not. No, it did not. So, without arrests and without charges, without naming the person who hit Joe, Norman PD has closed the Joe Powell case.
Wait, even with a medical examiner report that states it was Joe's death is homicide.
Mm-hmm.
Closed?
The Norman Police Department public information officer says the investigation is officially listed as closed. There are no suspects and no charges.
Bullshit.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So the media coverage locally, I'll just say it, has been terrible.
That's for sure. Absolutely for sure.
Amanda Powell has tried to keep Joe's name in the spotlight, and the media coverage is usually about 2.5 minutes of whatever they feel like editing together. I'm just going to say it. I truly feel like the best coverage you're going to get on the Joe Powell case is from The Last Clue.
I couldn't agree more.
And I'm not one to pat ourselves on the back. We know that
No.
we have a lot of work to do, but
nor are we knocking the media outlets because they can only do what they can do with the information they are given. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. So, Joe's family has lost him once, and honestly, with the way this has gone, they stand to lose him again in the form of unanswered questions. But The Last Clue and our listeners, we cannot let that happen.
Absolutely not.
So closed doesn't mean solved. It doesn't mean justice. It just means police stopped investigating. For Joe's family, that's devastating. It has to be devastating.
Absolutely.
They lost Joe once on that March morning, and now it looks like it's happening again. So before we wrap, just want to remind everybody that our email is info@smithmediateamllc.com. I have some questions for the listeners. Would love to have your honest views on social media, email, wherever you hear us.
Before we close, I do want to clarify one thing. Joe was not an only child. He did have two older sisters that we did fail to mention in our previous podcast. So my apologies to Joe's parents, Amanda and Joe, and also their girls, Jessica and Juliana.
So again, email info@smithmediateamllc.com. Our questions are simple. Why now, with the investigation closed? Why are the 21-year-olds' names withheld if one of them struck Joe?
Admittedly.
And the state of Oklahoma has deemed this officially a homicide. Why the 43-minute delay in calling 911? And if you've listened to this podcast and you've listened to our premium content, you know exactly what we think. What do you think? We have a homicide ruling. Why are there no charges? We know that Norman PD has closed this case. Why not reopen it?
And why are we waiting so damn long?
How does Norman Police Department's closure of this case affect public trust and future cases?
I could do an episode on that by myself.
And could the Castle Doctrine or self-defense claim play a role in one or all of these three men avoiding charges? We have two reports. We have two versions of the same night. We have a homicide ruling, and we have no suspects. Norman PD says this case is closed. The Last Clue and our listeners say it's not. For Joe's family, it's not closure. That's just another wound that they have to deal with. For the rest of us, it's a reminder. Sometimes the last line in a police report isn't the truth. It's just the end of the paperwork. This is The Last Clue. The Last Clue is a production of Smith Media Team, LLC. If you have any information about this case or any other cases that you would like us to cover, please email us at info@smithmediateamllc.com.